Is it getting darker and the days are getting shorter where you live? And you're getting a little panicking with the transition, the change, and maybe worrying and struggling a little bit because there's not enough light. Just remember, every year we adjust to it. Every year we might find ourselves struggling a little bit. That is true because there's less light. Less light means less activity. Less activity, we don't feel as good. But let's look at it on the upside. Let's remember ourselves that we have survived before. Yes, we might have struggled, but we did find solutions. And let's try to remember what solutions we did in the past so that we can adjust with more ease. If there's more dark, the upside of that means possibly more time for sleeping, for deep sleeping. Because when there's more light, we tend to be awake until the very late hours and then wake up early with the daylight. So there's more opportunity for actually sleep if we manage ourselves and go to bed earlier or try to get some of that sleep. Let's see if we can adjust our routine and day so that we can live more of the daylight, meaning wake up as early as possible and go to bed as early as possible. So say sunrise is at 6:45, then wake up with the sunrise or a little bit earlier so that by the time you've done your hygiene, you can go outside and enjoy the sunrise. And you get extra light in the morning. Sunrises and sunsets are beautiful, and in the shorter days it's more manageable to see them. If you live in there are places where I live, the long days can be from 4:30 in the morning until 10. On the shorter days can be from 7 until 4. So we want to maximize those sunrises and sunsets. If you can see, the better. If you can't see, at least notice the lighting that comes into the place where we live or where we are. So in what way can we adjust our routine to wake up earlier, to enjoy that extra lighting in the morning? And in what ways can we organize our day so we can spend a little more time outdoors? If we can't do a big chunk of time, can we every hour step outside or go into a window, open the window, step into the garden, go into the street, or say even if you're working, can we just step outside for 5 minutes every hour? It's productive. If you stay focused, you can still work, feel more productive, you get your physical exercise, and you see and feel the daylight. And now, if you go for little walks to help you and you find, I'm a bit bored of walks, in what ways can you diversify the physical movement? Walks are one way, running is another. I'm not a fan of running, but if there's something for you, stretches is another. Perhaps you could get some candles and stretch in the evening when there's less light. Make sure you're safe. Or just have a light, or just have a torch where you point the torch towards your favorite plant, and then you can stretch in the garden. Or just look towards the sky and the stars at night, because you will see the stars a lot earlier. And making sure that we are physically active as much as possible during the day, so that in the evening we're more tired. Because if you don't move as much during the day, then we're going to be so desperate to move at night, and then with the darkness it's going to be harder to motivate ourselves to go outside and do something. You can still go outside and walk in areas that are safe. You can even get curious about the lighting on people's homes without being disrespectful to their privacy. You don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, but you could just walk past and just notice the different shapes of windows and the lighting that you might find, and you might even be surprised and delighted with the moon and the stars. So in what ways can you bring the stretches, or even add a little bit of dancing? It's a little harder to motivate ourselves to dance. I love dancing. And in a social context, a piece of cake. But alone is harder, especially if you're at home, whatever you turn is a mess, so maybe it's not in your case. So, and if it's dark and you're tired, it's harder to motivate ourselves to do. But what about just putting one song? Just to start with, one song. I'm going to dance to one song only. So it's adding a little bit extra movement. Okay, if you go to a class, yes, could be 45 minutes, could be an hour, and we drag ourselves, and it's more motivating, there's more lighting, there's more people, and we just somehow follow. Okay, even if it's just dragging our feet. But it's harder to motivate ourselves in the dark when we're tired, alone. So let's go with something that is more manageable to start with. 5 minutes, one song. And then bit by bit, we might find our energy and motivation increase. Then we can increase that. Or just with time that is more manageable to do our little dancing. Just ways of increasing the physical activity during the daytime. Increasing the part of the day, or living most of our day with this light, waking up earlier, so we don't sleep through the morning light, and then have this big chunk of darkness at night that we have to cope. Because when it's dark, we're more likely to go into rumination and focusing on problems and negativity, and then we feel worse. And when we feel worse, it feels harder to think of solutions or think that we can cope. So if you are living in a part of the world that is sunny and springy, where there's more light is increasing and the warmth is increasing, enjoy. But if you're living on the part of the world where it's the opposite, getting darker, days are day, light, days are getting shorter, darker. So just make small adjustments, and remember, I've done this before. In what ways, or what things did I do before that helped me through? Okay, what else could I try differently? And even ask other people, how did you cope with winter? Now, if we don't have sufficient daylight, might want to take vitamin D supplements. I always have a bit of conflict between taking something artificial or naturally, but then if you don't have enough, then you will struggle with your energy levels and mood as well. So it's important that you check with your doctor to make sure that you've got sufficient, and increase ways, or have things in your diet that have additional vitamin D so you don't get deficient. So in what ways can I manage my energy levels? Just think about small steps, baby steps. Perhaps going outside for 5 minutes. If it's cold, go outside for 5 minutes. If half an hour seems too much, or 20 minutes, just 5 minutes, little and often, till you are energized. Okay? Or even have one song that you just listen to, and then listen to in your head with a mantra, and try to go for the walks. Because during the day, Yes, it is nice to have a walk at night in the dark, looking at the stars and the moon, yes. But if the chunk of time that you go outside is in the dark, then you're more likely, if you're already struggling with your mood and energy, it's more likely to be on the negative side. Because during the day, there are things that draw our attention in. The sky, the clouds, the trees, the people, the pets, the world around us. So we can have momentarily moments where we come off with our mind and our thoughts and our ruminations. Then we feel better. But in the dark, all of that gets shut down and we're just stuck with our thoughts. If you're managing and having something to look forward to, or just have a wonderful experience that we can go back into that sort of fantasy or memory, or if we're creating a fantasy, but then we have to rely on those things, but you also want to be present. So can you get a candle that you can look at it to lighten up in moments where we feel a bit dark and negative? So mindfully just look at the candle. And then avoid TVs and computers before bedtime, so the light does not keep you awake for longer. Just have a set time, 9 o'clock, off. And then just have a shower, go to bed. Okay, so start your bedtime routine earlier, so that you wind down and then go to bed earlier. To increase yourself, give yourself a chance of switching off and sleeping through. Now there are some activities that are wonderful and they only happen at night. That's a little bit of a struggle if you are trying to manage an early bedtime. So see in what way can you participate, if that's really important to you, in what way can you participate in the activity on the earlier part of the activity. Because sometimes you might have an activity that runs or has a span of a couple of hours. So can you perhaps participate on that earlier rather than arriving later and only having the leftover of it. If you go earlier, then you're more likely to feel tired earlier and then leave earlier. So you don't feel like you're missing totally. And if you have a treat, you could treat yourself once a week, but then the rest of the time try to have this consistent bedtime and waking up time, because then the circadian rhythms regulate, and that's easier to manage the energy levels and the mood. So in what ways can I improve, live more of the day and feel better to cope with the short days? If you go to bed earlier, so if you go to bed at 10 instead of 11 and 12, there's 2 less hours of darkness. If you get ready by 9 or from 9 o'clock, then it's 3 less hours of where you don't have to live in the darkness, for instance. And if you do a dancing and a stretch, then you're shortening less and less and less. So you don't have to live so much of the darkness. Okay, if you can live in the darkness, then that's okay. I personally prefer more of the daylight and have more energy, and I feel better when I live more of the daylight. So you just check within yourself, and also check with others, because sometimes our perception, sometimes we think, oh, I can cope, but we don't realise we're not coping as well. Sometimes we don't have a full vision of our own or best. It's not that we don't have the capacity, because we could just cope with anything, but we might not be at our best. Okay, so for instance, some people might say, oh, I can cope with little sleep, but then they don't realise that the behaviour is more negative, more moody, more erratic, more extreme, more addictive. So in what you have to sort of recognize when you feel better and how you, and when you cope better with the things during the day, yourself, your mood, your energy levels. So know your limits so that you can find solutions. Sometimes there's other things that get on the way, and that can be a little harder when you have other people living with us and or children. But that's a little harder because we're not just dependent on ourselves, but also other things are contributing towards our sleep. But if we can manage, how can I solve this so I can, we can all go to bed earlier and live more of the day? If you know solutions, do tell me too. Good luck, good luck, good luck. How can I live more of the day? Start and give yourself permission to ease off the hook of the panicking and judging and worrying when you haven't quite got there yet, because it takes time to adjust. Okay, so you can go cold turkey. Now this is my routine, I just stick with it. But often we tend to adjust bit by bit to things. Okay, so just like this temporarily, this discomfort, for instance, the hour change, and all of a sudden you've got a full day full of rain, and you haven't quite adjusted to as and when you go out and have a work out and do things. So it can be a little bit taxing at the end of the day and motivating. But remember, just temporarily, it will adjust and find solutions. Good luck. Bye.